suddenly broken, so it must be something good about it. Now we're here to express our dissatisfaction with our MP, Mrs. Morgan. Nice person, but she is not doing right by the electorate of Loughborough. So we're here together as a cross-party organisation to express our dissatisfaction and to keep realising that we have opportunity to express our preference for an MP sometime in the next 3-4 years. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to Dan Lillicombe, the local chairman of the Libertarian Party, and thank God for Libertarians. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure to be able to speak to you all today. I don't know about you, but for me, the referendum was about one word which, unfortunately, many of the establishment would rather we forgot about, and that word is sovereignty. So I'd like to thank Dr. Andy McWilliam and others for organising this cross-party event, because it is so important that we continue to promote this vital cause and remind stubborn Remainers in positions of power that Brexit means Brexit. It's been 2 years since the British voted to leave the EU, and the question that was asked was very, very straightforward. Should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union or leave the European Union? And the result was equally straightforward. The majority voted to leave. On any other vote that I can remember, that would have been the end of it. We wake up, we read the morning papers, we put on the radio, we watch the news, we get on with our lives. But not this time. Why not this time? You cannot have failed to notice that the establishment voices for Remain have never stopped campaigning. For 2 years, Project Veer has been motoring on relentlessly. For 2 years, the decision of the people with the largest voter turnout of a generation to leave the EU has been undermined, attacked, watered down, eroded. We have witnessed, since the Brexit vote, every form of sophistry applied to undo and undermine this democratic decision. We have seen the invention of 2 Brexits, hard and soft, all in order to find a way to dismiss significant parts of what Brexit really means, if it is to mean anything at all. We have seen the same people who denounced the decision of the UK Parliament in even offering us a referendum suddenly calling for its supremacy over triggering Article 50, hoping that they would not do so. In that they were disappointed. Now they hope Parliament will overturn any Brexit deal, force our negotiators back, cap in hand, to the EU, where they will inevitably have, at that point, no leverage at all. Many who campaigned and voted to remain have accepted the outcome of the referendum, and for them honouring that, I am grateful. But let's not mince our words. Establishment Remainers want us to fail. They lost the referendum, and now they wish to disregard it, hamstring it, hobble it, kill it. For these hard Remainers, the democratic decision must be overturned or made of no effect. For them, nothing less will do. But we have seen this tactic before, following various referenda at other times in EU history. When Denmark was given the vote on Maastricht in '92 and voted no, they ran the vote a second time until they got the pro-EU result. When Irish voters rejected the Nice Treaty in 2001, they ran the vote a second time to get the pro-EU result. When French and Dutch voters rejected the EU Constitution in 2005, they were ignored. When Irish voters rejected Lisbon in 2008, they ran the vote again to get the pro-EU result. And when Greek voters rejected the Euro bailout in 2015, they were ignored too. This is the anti-democratic and anti-voter sovereignty behaviour of the EU. So we should not be surprised that establishment hard Remainers take exactly the same anti-democratic attitude. sovereignty. That is what it was all about for me. But establishment hard remainers do not respect it. Rather than respecting the sovereignty of the individuals, the people, from where their power legitimately springs, they seek instead to hand the power to the state, to those people and institutions they see as more fit, more proper wielders of it. As they see it, we as humble voters are too uneducated, too stupid, too uninformed, too deluded, too bigoted to vote correctly. Their arrogance is astonishing. In their words, such decisions must be left to cleverer people than you, more informed people than you, wiser people than you, but not you. Anyone but the people from whom the power legitimately springs. The whole EU system was designed to hold we the people at arm's length, so the special appointed few could rule unhindered. They are elitists, tyrannically determined to get their way. There are many hard remainers in positions of significant influence, and some are Remainer MPs sitting in constituencies which voted Leave. We are here to remind them from where they gain their legitimacy. If they have any power at all, it is because the people gave it to them. Their legitimacy comes from our sovereignty, exercised at the ballot box. If the individual sovereignty of voters at the ballot is nothing, then they are nothing. If the ballot that supported Brexit can be ignored, what does that mean for every other ballot in this country? Every ballot, including the ones that elected them. This we cannot allow. This is the real battle. And so we say, Nicky Morgan MP, the people put you here, and the people voted to leave. It's time to publicly commit to supporting a clean and total people's Brexit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Very much in agreement with that. So, as Dan said, we hope that Mrs. Morgan is listening. She says on the plaque outside her office that she is. Are you convinced that she is, ladies and gentlemen? Precisely. So we need to remind her, and we shall do that. I'm now going to introduce a lady who has worked so hard for the goal of extracting the United Kingdom from the European Union. She's worked tirelessly for years, and it's been a great pleasure to work alongside her. She is the Deputy Chairman of UKIP, and her name is Margot Parker, MEP. Margot, welcome.
Well, good morning, Loughborough. I hope you're having a good morning. We certainly are here. We've got a bit of truth going on here, nothing wrong with that. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the 23rd of June, British voters voted to leave the EU with the largest turnout ever of the British public. Wow. We overturned the establishment. The government spent under £10 million with direct mailing to tell us how to vote. We did not listen. They couldn't believe it. So what I'm going to say to you today is, those voters, those Remainers, please respect the will of the British people. When British voters voted, they expected full sovereignty and to make our justice system and to be in control of our borders and our waters and to be able to trade with the rest of the world. The British people expect our laws to be made in Westminster, not in Brussels. Westminster must be our law maker, not a law taker. Very, very important. So, after the result, the establishment, of course, they threw every kind of scare tactic imaginable to try to change the voters' minds. They said the banks will relocate. They won't. They said the pound will crash. It won't. The planes will be grounded. They won't. Air traffic will stop. It won't. No one will invest in the UK. They will. They have, and we've had record investments. International companies will leave? I don't think so. Remember, when the CBI said we would be finished if we didn't join the euro, well, they were wrong then, and they're wrong now. Wrong. I'm tired MPs who arrogantly look down their nose at the people who voted leave. Time that those MPs took a pride in their country and respect the people. It's called democracy. Cherish it. Use it or lose it. It's very, very important. We have the emerging economies to trade with. We want to be good neighbours with the EU, but remember, it's a two-way street. We want a deal, but not at any price. Never forget the threats from the EU. We must never give in to bullying. Remember, the duty of those elected is to serve, and serve the people they must. I look forward to our laws being made in Westminster. Better trade with continents like Africa, who have been restricted for years with the most awful protectionist racket called the EU. Africa can trade out of its problems, and we want to help them. So there is a bigger, better, brighter world out there for us to trade with. Doesn't mean to say we don't want to trade with the EU, we do. But we want to be able to do it fairly, reasonably, and we're fed up being told what to do. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't hide behind the EU anymore. And I've come to the conclusion that many MEPs have forgotten how to govern. They've absolutely forgotten what they're there to do. They're there, actually, to make the law. And if after 5 years, you guys decide, I'm not voting for that MP because, frankly, they haven't really served me, what have they done for me? You're entitled to throw them out. It's called democracy. You can get rid of them. Remaining in the EU, of course, is the most dreadful thing, because we have no democracy. You know, we don't. People say, well, you're sitting in the European Parliament. Yeah, we are. You've got a massive amount of power. No, we don't. 8.4% of the vote, British MEPs. Precious little, let me tell you. So when they say you've got a seat at the table, let me tell you, I've always felt we were under the table. But here we have a chance to make sure that our people will be represented properly, honestly, decently. And that's why you've been so important. And my colleague from the Libertarian Party, we agree with one another. We're here to serve the people. If you don't want to serve the people, leave. Let the people represent themselves. And that's what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Great. Let's hear from Margaret. Thank you, Margaret. Excellent speech. Thank you. I'd like to pick up a point that Margaret made there at trading with developing countries, the continent of Africa, which is an amazingly rich continent. South America, again, amazingly rich. We can trade so much better with the whole world than we can just through Europe alone. And so the next speaker I'm going to introduce is Jonathan Bullock MEP, and he's great. Like Margaret, he's campaigned long and hard for many a year. Jonathan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you for inviting me again. I'm delighted to be here, not least to expose the hypocrisy of Nicky Morgan, who took all the votes in the general election last year on the basis of a manifesto which said we would leave the single market and leave the customs union. She's now betrayed that. Not my words, Liam Fox said that support staying in the customs union is a betrayal of Brexit. That is absolutely outrageous, and we need to continue to expose this. So well done, Andy. I know you're going to keep on. You're going to have stores in the future. I'll be back as well, and hopefully we'll have a bit of weather. One thing I'd like to point out is, and this is just showing you what's waiting for us outside the customs union, with countries, whether it's India, Australia, New Zealand. Let's just see what Alexander Downer said, the Australian High Commissioner. He said Britain would be humiliated and irrelevant on the world stage if we were to remain in a customs union with Europe after Brexit. He said, for us in the outside world, Britain will become, at least in economic terms, irrelevant to international diplomacy. You will be better off even remaining within the EU or being completely out of it in every way than leaving yourselves in such a position of weakness and irrelevancy. and he's absolutely right. We have to be out the customs union. And so today I am launching a challenge to Nicky Morgan. I challenge her to a debate on the customs union. I want her to debate with us. She says she represents the people of Loughborough. Well, I represent the people of Loughborough as well. In fact, I represent 4 million people in the East Midlands, and I want to debate these issues with her in Loughborough, in front of people, with an independent chairman. And that challenge is going to go out. It's going to go out to the media after this meeting, because we heard that the last time we were here, she said she was a few minutes away. She never came to talk to her constituents here. She never came to talk to a local councillor from her party who is here supporting us. She ignored it. She is ignoring local people. So that challenge will go out today. Nicky Morgan, you are wrong on the customs union. Please respect the vote of over 17 million people. We want to leave the EU, we want to leave the customs union, and we want our freedom back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Excellent. And a challenge indeed to Mrs. Morgan. And we await a response, I guess. And there's been a petition going out, an online government petition, for a referendum so that people could have a referendum on the abolition of the House of Lords. My own personal view is that the House of Lords should be removed and the chamber actually used as an English Parliament. But that's just my view. I'm more than happy to hear other people's views. But we need a second chamber, but it must be an elected chamber, elected by the people, not appointed by the establishment.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce, please, ladies and gentlemen, Luke Nash-Jones from the People's Charter Foundation, working very hard for exactly what we're working forward to. So, may I introduce to you, please? Ready, Luke? Luke Nash-Jones, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Nearly 400 years ago, Oliver Cromwell signed a death warrant for the King of England, and he was an MP. It would be shocking if that happened today, if an MP called for the death of the Queen or Theresa May. Why were the people so angry? They were angry because politicians don't care about us. They don't listen to us, they don't understand you and me, and they don't feel our pain. And nothing has changed. They ignore our votes, they ignore our voice, and they mean to go against democracy and stop Brexit. Now, you and I suffer greatly due to mass migration, and we expect just to suffer in silence. We're shouted down as racist, xenophobic or bigoted, as we heard that man try to do as he walked past just now. And our politicians don't understand the pain we feel. We have to face long NHS waiting lists, but someone like Nick Clegg wouldn't understand because he has private health care. We have a housing shortage due to mass migration. But what would someone like Diane Abbott or Gina Miller possibly know about this? It's not in their backyard. And I doubt Gina Miller has ever been to a council estate in her life. And then we have a paedophile epidemic across this country, in Rotherham, Telford, Keighley, Oxford, and probably pretty much everywhere. But what would the politicians in Westminster care about that for when they themselves have had a scandal with paedophilia? These people don't care about you and I, they don't love Britain, and they don't care about the people. All they're interested in is money. And that's why we see that people such as Emily Thornberry berated the British people because white bad men waved the English flag. We see now a call for a memorial for Stephen Lawrence, but there isn't one for Charlene Downs, there isn't one for Chris Donald, and there's not one for Lee Rigby. And the politician you have here is no better. Nicky Morgan doesn't care about the people. We voted for Brexit, and she's repeatedly tried to stop that. To these Anglophones, I will read now the words of Oliver Cromwell, who boldly declared to the Houses of Commons in 1653, "It's high time for me to put an end to your sitting in this place, which you have dishonoured by your contempt of all virtue, and defiled by your practice of every vice. Ye are a factious crew, and enemies to all good government. Ye are a pack of mercenary wretches, and would like Esau sell your country for a mess of pottage, and like Judas betray your God for a few pieces of silver." Now today, politicians are no different whatsoever. They're influenced by special interest groups who fund them, and they don't have your interest at heart. They will not only sell out God, Queen and country, they'll sell their own grandmother. And the question I have to ask is, will we put up with this anymore?
No, we won't.
We have had enough, and that's why we voted for Brexit. Now people like Richard Branson, who said we made a mistake, got it wrong, what would he know? He's enjoying himself, sunning himself on a beach in the Caribbean. He wouldn't know anything about life in Britain for the real people. Now, mass migration has driven down wages, but for people like Richard Branson, that's good. There's a black market of labour which can be exploited, and lots of middle-class people are happy to have Eastern European au pairs working 7 days a week for less than the minimum wage. Now that's basically slavery, and these are the conditions of the Victorian slums we rose up and out of. We demanded fair wages, fair working hours and safe working conditions, and therefore businessmen don't want us. And that's why we have mass unemployment across Wales and the North and the Midlands. Now Theresa May, I believe, is very well aware of this, and she's needlessly taken us into a negotiation to protect this position. The massive problem with a negotiation is you meet with somebody halfway. You sit down at a table and you have to make a deal. And what we need really is a strong leader like Donald Trump, who would just put his foot down, repeal the ECA and walk away. Because we don't need Germany, but they need us. We trade more with the USA. Now, I read last night that Guy Verhofstadt has said that Brexit will be delayed unless Britain makes further concessions to the EU. This is the problem with the negotiation. It's also been said that we're going to have to give up control of our tax making. That's not independence. When we leave, the EU is going to determine how much tax you have to pay. It's also been said that we're going to have to be subject to the ECJ, the European Court. We don't want Europe determining our laws, because at the moment, by the Human Rights Act, we are held back from introducing the death sentence to deal with jihadis and stop this scourge of paedophilia across the north of this country. Now, 52% of people clearly voted for Brexit, and we need to have a real Brexit, a proper Brexit, and not a half job. To those in Brussels who would seek to stop this will of the people, I think we should remember and remind them of the words of Rudyard Kipling, who said, "My son, leave the Saxon alone. You can horsewhip your Gascony archers or torture your Picardy spears. From the richest old thane in the county to the poorest chain serf in the field, they will be at you, on you like hornets, and if you are wise, you will yield." Now we need to remember those who have carried out some of the greatest struggles through history to preserve our nation. Those who signed up in World War II, knowing they would go to certain death, but some of them would only live for 2 weeks. Many men went to Normandy, to D-Day. They knew they wouldn't come back, but they had families at home they fought for. And now in the future, when people are going to look back at you and me, what are they going to say about us? Will they say that we had the courage of lions, with the heart of oak, with the strength of the British bulldog, as we meet the fire of the Welsh dragon? or they say we're a bunch of cowards. But these obstacles that we're going to face, these challenges, are not easy. They are difficult. But we must never lose that British spirit and identity. There's only one way that we're going to get our country back. And it's not by playing these games set before us by the Liberal elite. It will not be by political lobbies. It will not be by corrupt political parties. There's only one way from the days of the Chartists who got us to vote up until now that the voice of the people will be respected. And by that's by ever peaceful, lawful, increasing protest. That's what forced David Cameron to give us the referendum in the first place, to save his bacon, though I shouldn't talk about his past romances. But when we are united as one, as a populist call for action, then we are powerful, then they will fear us, and then we will win. There are 70 million of us to only 100 or so MPs. Now we mustn't cower, we mustn't hide, and we mustn't be quiet. We mustn't stand around and wait for somebody else to come out and do this for us. For anyone watching this on YouTube who hasn't bothered to come out here today, shame on you! You need to get up off your backside. You need to write to your MPs. You need to go to their coffee mornings and make an absolute nuisance of yourself. And we need protests like this from one end of the country to the other. We must make those MPs know how we feel. Because we only have 4 years now to the next general election. And they must know that everyone who betrays us, who goes against our will be thrown out at the next general election. Now in conclusion, to Nicky Morgan, who's what Cromwell would describe as a sordid prostitute, I read out these words. You have sat too long for any good you have been doing lately. Depart, I say, and have done with you. In the name of God, go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been a great success this afternoon. The weather decides. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for expressing yourselves. Thank you to our speakers, Barbara Parker, Jonathan Bullock, Luke Nash-Jones, Dan Liddycoat, Libertarian Party. Look out for this, because this movement, libertarianism, is a great thing. And so look out for that. And thank you to you, the people of Loughborough and beyond, because we are going to send this message to our MP, Nicky Morgan. She needs to listen and work for the people of Loughborough. And the people of Loughborough do know their own mind. Well done, you. Thank you very much. Bye.